Alright lads, it's me, Locke, you know who it is, and now I've got news for you guys. The feminists are back at it again, this time with a new board game. Oh, this board game is called Miss Monopoly. I know, right? The girls don't get their own original board game, they just get a female rip-off. Never seen that before. Ghostbusters, Ocean's 11. Oh, that's never been done before, right? Okay. So the premise of this board game is that instead of having a male mascot, the mascot of the Monopoly game is a female. There's basically been no change to the game, it's just the mascot has been changed. And they're just injecting politics into the Monopoly game. Originally, when it was first created in the late 19th century, it was actually quite a political game. It was supposed to show the evils of capitalist landlords. However, it became a staple in the home and it just became a nice little board game. And it has remained that way for decades. And honestly, it's a great game and it has become quite an apolitical game. It's just like a nice game that you play with your family. But now, it has become political again. This time, instead of a socialist agenda, it now has a feminist agenda. And there's a little quote underneath the title of the board game, and it says, "Now women earn more than men do." And it's just untrue. It's basically drawing a link to the gender pay gap, which, well, honestly, it's just so stupid because the gender pay gap has been debunked so many times. It is literally a myth at this point. Basically, it is a study which shows just the average earnings of men and women. It doesn't look into anything, it doesn't take any extraneous variables into account. It doesn't take into account part-time or full-time jobs, the occupations, the amount of hours worked, whether or not they have family, like whether they have got expenditure, if they've got debt, student loans, anything that takes any sort of money out of the paycheck, any taxation, doesn't take any of that into account. It's just an average of all men and all women's earnings, and just saying, oh look, women earn less than men, that must be because of sexism. No, it doesn't work like that. Because not only is it not a wage gap, it's an earnings gap. There's difference.
Yeah. These don't take into account what type of work they're doing, whether they're full or part-time, what kind of choices they make in terms of balance between family and work. This is an aggregate figure.
If you looked at the earnings and the wage of men and women in the same job, working the same hours, you would find that they're basically getting the same amount. However, because it's an average of all the women and men, no matter what, there's a big difference. And that's to be expected. It's not taking anything into account. Like, if men are going for higher paying jobs, then yeah, they're gonna get more pay. Like, and that sort of contrasts with the fact that women are more likely to get into higher education, like university. So women are more likely to get into university, but men exclusively try and get into higher paying jobs and like higher paying fields. However, it isn't sexist when it benefits women, but it is sexist when it benefits men. Like, oh, okay.
If it were true that you could pay a woman less than a man for doing the same work, then you would only ever employ women.
What about CEOs?
Average age 54, predominantly male, many a lot older, mainly from a generation there was no parity of maternity or paternity pay, for example. The fact that there are more men in top positions is a reflection of the past, not of the present. You know, it will take time, but we're getting there.
The gender pay gap is a myth. The only way you could argue sexism is when feminists argue that the gap in earnings is because of society. It's just like, that's a bit of a shaky argument to begin with in the first place. Like, you cannot argue that. And this whole political agenda that's been associated with this innocent children's board game has just ruined it, and it doesn't even empower women. Like, you're just shoving your politics into little children's faces, basically telling them, oh, you won't ever earn more than a man, but here, you will in this ball game. No. No. That's... You don't do that to children. Children are like such innocent little creatures. Why are you putting politics in their faces? I don't go up to a child and be like, hey, have you ever heard of capitalism? It's better than socialism. Go tell your friends. Stupid. Like, you don't shove politics down children's throats because you're just indoctrinating them. Like, let them grow, let them be more educated, and let them choose their politics themselves. Because as I've already shown, like, the gender pay gap is just a shaky argument to begin with. And people just believe it based on political ideology. And you can't just shove that down children's throats. Like, it's fine if you believe in the gender pay gap, but you have to realise that you don't believe in it because it's actually fact. You believe in it because of ideology. Like, it's not an actual proven fact. In fact, it's been proven that it isn't real. Studies that have taken occupation and hours worked have shown that women actually earn like 1% more than men. But you see, media outlets know this. However, they know if they say, oh yeah, women earn more than men, like by 1%, that isn't going to get any clicks on like their articles, is it? It's basically just a big headline to get clicks. Like, the media can mislead the public all they like. Then, like, unless they're the BBC, they have no legal obligation to tell you the truth. They're just in it for profit. The BBC, on the other hand, does have a legal obligation to tell you the truth, but even the BBC has fell into this complete lie of the gender pay gap because now it's just become such a normal thing to just mislead the public on the subject.
It's an aggregate figure. The headlines are disingenuous at best. HSBC pay men more than women. ITN pay men more than women. No. They just employ more men in higher positions. It
What
is
are
a
you doing?
completely
Why are you saying... Right, okay, just give me two... Hang on.
It's just... pisses me off to no end, and now you're just shoving it down little children's throats. Like, let Monopoly be Monopoly. Let Dominoes be Dominoes. Like, what is this? You cannot just inject politics into a ball game. It's just... Like, yes, the origins of the ball game may have been political, but that isn't what it became. Like, even back when it was first created, no one was playing it because of its political agenda. They were playing with it because it was a fun game. But now, you've actually removed the original political statement that the actual creator was making. Oh, and let's just say this, that the original creator of Monopoly was a woman. So the fact that they are just changing the message of the game is essentially silencing a woman. Like, let that sink in, because I find that quite funny. And it just pisses me off to no end that these people think it's okay to do this. Like, it may seem like an innocent little thing, but when you think about it, it really isn't, because what you're doing is just putting politics into a kid's game. Like, imagine if you were watching, like, CITV or CBBC or any other kids show, and they're like, oh my god, Trump's bad. Why are you going on about politics in a thing directed toward kids? Kids, they don't know anything about politics. They don't know anything about wiping their own arse. Like, honestly, this is indoctrination, quite literally. Like, I'm against like teaching kids religion until they're at an age where they can make a decision for themselves. Because if they're raised in a religion, they'll stay in that religion because they were indoctrinated. I'm against indoctrinating kids. And this is indoctrination. Because this is a kid's game. And you're teaching them your politics. Let's just... Please don't do that. Just please. Do you know why this is such a big issue for me? It is because you cannot just... Do you know why this is such a big issue for me? Do you know why? It's not because of the political messaging, because, like, a lot of things have political messages in it. But, for one, this is directed towards kids, and secondly, the political message isn't even true. Oh, for once, women make more than men. No, plenty of women make more than men. It's just on average they don't, and actually, they have the same wage, it's just that they work less because of whatever reason. Like, they might have a different job, so they might get paid less, because that job is lower paying. They might work less hours, they might work part-time. Like, it doesn't take anything into account. They might have a student loan, like, taking out a percentage of their paycheck. This studies for the gender pay gap don't take any of that into account. And the people who write these articles and present this to the public know this. But if they say the truth, that there isn't really an issue, they won't get any clicks, they won't get any money, they won't get any profit. And with media companies, it's all about that green. And certainly that's the downside about having a capitalistic media system, because they're just all about that green, you feel me? Not about telling the truth or educating the public. It's shameful, honestly. Actual feminists themselves said the gender pay gap isn't real, it's an earnings gap. It's an earnings gap.
Me too. Hang on, Tim. I thought we were supposed to be interviewing a feminist.
I am a feminist, which
Sorry.
is why I'm not interested in myths being peddled by people like you.
Hang on a minute. I'm on your side.
Do you really think that you would be being paid less if you were a woman? I bet you get paid less than Fiona Bruce.
Well, yes.
Yeah, so why don't you sue? It's because she does a different job to you. It's because she has a higher market value. It's because she is more popular with the public.
All right, calm it.
My point is, it's not a gender pay gap. There are lots of factors at play here.
Matt Smith.
And there's a difference between wage and earning. Because people say that the gender pay gap is a wage gap, and it isn't. In England, because I'm not sure about America, but unequal wages because of sex or gender was made illegal in 1969 in the Equal Pay Act of 1969.
What can we do about the fact that women, for example, are still paid less for the same work as men, or the fact that...
They're not.
Sorry, what?
Women aren't paid less for the same work as men. That's illegal. That's been illegal since 1970. It's been illegal in the US since 1963.
No, that's not what I've got here. Women earn 76p for every £1 a man earns.
No, they don't.
Like, it's been illegal since the 1970s. You cannot argue that women get paid less. It's been illegal for decades. And you don't hear that a lot, because saying that won't get any profit from the media companies. It's a misleading headline. I have researched the gender pay gap quite a lot, and it has a lot of complexity in it. It's got quite a lot of nuance. However, I know one thing for sure, and that is the fact that the way the media presents it is completely misleading, and it's to gain profit. They say that the gender pay gap is just women getting paid less because of sexism, and it's not. It's women earning less because of whatever reasons. They earn less because of personal decisions they make in life, personal economic decisions, like having children, like working part-time instead of full-time, working in a particular field that may not be as high-paying. Like, men prefer to go in the science fields, which are particularly high-paying, usually, and women prefer going to whatever. Like, I'm not a girl, but, you know, there's usually a difference in what men choose to work in and what women do, and that may contribute to what sort of jobs they get, and it does. However, that isn't because of sexism. It's literally just personal decisions that the different sexes makes. Like, society may influence that, but you have no hard proof of that, so you can't just pin it on sexism or the patriarchy, because at the end of the day, where's your evidence of that? You don't have any? Well then, just talking out your arse then, aren't you? Yeah, it just pisses me off to no end. Not only are they just shoving politics down children's throats, it's the fact that the politics isn't even true in the first place, and that people know this as well. People have been saying to the feminists that this isn't true for years, but they just ignore it. They're just like, oh, my gender wage gap. They don't even address counter-argument that it's not even about wages, it's about earnings. It's just complete piss take, honestly. And like, I would just like to reiterate that it doesn't even this board game doesn't even empower women. It literally silences the original creator and the messaging she put to the board game. Honestly, shameful. This was a much more serious video, but I had to get out. I'll see you in the next video, guys.